I was like a kid at a candy shop. There were Skittles everywhere around. Like they were parked around like the fountain as well in City Walk. So it was just beautiful. So hi, my name is Neshyane, but everybody knows me as Nesh since it's much easier to say. So I'm originally from Sri Lanka, but I was born and raised here in the UAE. Been living here for about, let's say, 20 years. Currently, I'm a university student at Brigham Young University of Idaho. So my first car, it's 2013 Premium Edition V6 Mustang. So the story behind this is like, you guys know what Knight Rider is, right? So growing up in the 2000s, and even like my dad, he saw these probably back in the 90s when it was David Hasselhoff, I believe. May have messed up his name, but he was the original actor, and Kid was the Mustang, right? My dad and I, we were both like, my dad asked me, he's like, Nesh, since you're turning 18 now, what do you want as your first car? So I gave him a list. I was like, okay, we could possibly look at these type of cars. Like we could go for maybe a Nissan 350Z, maybe a Nissan 370Z, maybe like a Golf GTI, somewhere like, something cool, not too expensive that'll break the bank, but something that I can at least drive and feel proud of owning along with modify. But my mom, on the other hand, she was saying, no, just give him a Toyota Yaris. Just something he can smash up if he gets in an accident, and we won't have to cause any issues about that accident. But luckily, Dad was like, no, no, no. If we're getting a first car, we're going to do it right. So we ended up like looking on the market that time for whatever I could find. And when I mentioned Mustang, he was like, okay, let's go for a Mustang, because he likes Mustangs as well. A little child in him obviously loves the idea of owning a Mustang, because I'm pretty sure like anyone who's actually grown up back in that time, Mustangs are iconic, and they still are to this day. It's just not as iconic as back then. We saw one offer, which was a 2013 edition. It was a little out of our budget back then. We were like thinking, oh, is it really worth it? But then when me and Dad just saw like the leather interior option, along with just how nice the newer shape looked, we were just suckers, and we bought it right on the spot, sadly. But so we had the car under our name like after less than about, I think, 2 or 3 hours of waiting. We drove the car the same day back home, and I'll admit it, I was like I was like a kid on fire, like cloud nine. I was just like going nuts. I was like, yes, this is my first car. It's a Mustang. The original color is like a gray, like the factory gray, but I ended up getting it wrapped in this really nice like satin red with chrome essence. So like during like the time of dusk, like at 6 p.m. and so, when the sunlight is low, it has like this very like shiny chrome kind of touch to it. A lot of people really like it, but some people kind of say I ruined the car, but they can keep their opinions to themselves, so I don't really care. We also have a Roush exhaust on the car. Even though it's a V6, a lot of people are like, why would you want to waste your effort on modifying a V6? End of the day, it's my first car. I love it. Don't have to have a V8. And that's the other thing. My dad, even though I wanted to get a V8, my dad was telling me, he's like, I would rather get a V6 because he thought that it was more petrol oriented than a V8, but reality is they're both very similar from what I've heard. When I was doing my IGCSEs back in 2016, I had finished it. I just like stopped high school afterwards because I decided I wanted to take about maybe a year or two for a gap year. So me and my family friends, we were actually at City Walk. This was the first time I attended events, because even though I was into cars, like even growing up in high school from the age of like maybe 6 or 7, I was into cars. I was nuts about them. But I never went for an actual car event, or I didn't even know such things happened. So we were at City Walk, and the Lamborghini UAE that day, because I was following them on Instagram, I saw that they had a National Day event there at City Walk. So the second I saw them, I started responding. I was like, are you guys actually coming to City Walk? One of them, I don't remember who was the admin. I think it was Glenn, but I'm not too sure. But he responded. He was like, yeah, we're coming to City Walk. If you're there, definitely drop by. I ended up going there, and like when I was 16, I just remember being mind blown, because they had Aventadors, LP700s, Aventadors, SVs. They had like the Gallardos, they had the Huracans, and I was just going absolutely nuts. I was like a kid at a candy shop. There were Skittles everywhere around. Like they were parked around like the fountain as well in City Walk. So it was just beautiful. Even though I'm pretty sure my family, friends, and my parents must have been fed up watching me run around like 20 times, I was enjoying it. And the thing is, I got to speak to a lot of the owners and everything, and like they told me, okay, if you want to come for more events, you're gonna have to follow this page, that page, and they even directed me to a page known as 9 Degree Car Club. So that's when I started like watching them more often. And the second event I attended was actually at the McLaren showroom, and that's where ironically I met Alex, aka Supercar Blondie. And so from there I kind of started attending events more and more. But the point where I got like more personal and more like invitations to the events was after I had met Danny from the 9 Degree Car Club at another event. It was called the Elite One event. They had like Bugattis attending the event. They even had a Koenigsegg Agera. But I got to meet Danny. He kind of told me, oh, if we have events, I'll let you know. And from there, I started attending more events. And luckily, thanks to the 9th degree, I actually met one of my very good friends to this day, Rushel. So he actually drives a Maserati MC Stradale. This is when I was 16. I told him, like, hey, are you going for this Yas Marina event, which 9 Degrees hosting? It was like a track day at Yas Marina Circuit. He was like, oh, I would come, but the thing is, my mom, we gotta, like, she's not letting me take the Maserati because I think he had gotten a fine or something like that, and his mom was pissed at him for driving the car. So he had to tell his mom that he was going to be keeping the car at a car show, when in reality he was just parking it in my garage. So we'd gone, parked the car in his garage, or my garage, and then he had just gone the next day. So the next day, we came back to my house, we took the car, went to Yas Marina Circuit, and I'm not gonna lie, you know, having a Maserati in my garage before I had the Mustang, we only had our Ford Explorer back then. So the second parking spot was a beautiful empty Stradale, and you know, I was like the entire night, I was just going out and in and out of the house, just watching it and looking. I was like, oh, that thing's gorgeous. So you know, I couldn't help myself back then. And after the Yas Marina track day, I got to meet a lot of more, like, you know, car enthusiasts and a lot of also supercar owners. From there, I started getting more involved in cars, and from that day onwards, like, Rushel had told me that he had started Team Chanel, but at the time it was very small. It had about maybe 10 or 15 members, I believe. So, and then I told him, dude, let's start doing something like the 9th degree, like, you know, where we do events, except for people who don't have supercars, just car enthusiasts in general, who enjoy cars, you know, who can't afford supercars and stuff. You don't have, just because you don't have a supercar doesn't mean you don't enjoy cars, right? So he was like, okay. So I kept bugging him, nagging him. I kept like saying, dude, let's do some events. He got fed up, eventually gave up. He was like, okay, Nesh, just do an event. You sort everything out. If it's good enough, I'll say okay. So the first event that I sorted out for Team Chanel was a Jebel Hafid drive. We had a good number of cars. We had the MC Stradale, we had a GT as well, a Maserati GT, a GTR, along with a couple of Mustangs, and I believe also Corvette joined us for the drive. It was a bit of a short drive, but after that drive, it kind of secured my idea about making events. So from, I think about that day, I think it might have been 3 years, I was the events coordinator for Team Chanel. But after I had to go for college, I just told Rushel that I don't think I would be able to do it anymore. But I'm still a member in Team Chanel to this day, and even a few events. So the thing is, my dad, he works at the Atlantis. So I ended up also doing like a coordinated event with the HR team in Atlantis, where we bought the cars into the Atlantis, like into places where cars haven't been before, I guess. And it was a pretty nice event.